Hey there, Peril fans. Welcome to this episode of Peril Characters, A Closer Look Part 2. I'm author-filmmaker Timothy James Holloway, and I am the writer of Peril. Thank you for joining us. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Peril or the book or the ongoing film effort, this is part of a web series that I'm doing to kind of deconstruct or demystify, if you will, the characters that are in the mind-bending, awe-inspiring fantasy action adventure science fiction thriller that is Peril. In this episode, we'll take a look at the Seer, the internet of the 22nd century, and the holy mystagogues, the leaders and deities of the phantomism faith.
C is the internet of the 22nd century. It doesn't make mistakes.
In Peril, the Seer is the internet of the 22nd century. It's this non-corporeal character. I felt it was important to depict it as a physical being with wants and desires to add depth to the story. When writing the book, I used my computer a lot to write passages in the book, and I accessed a lot of information off of the internet, and it just dawned on me. I was like, we today use the internet so much to find answers to questions that we don't know the answers to. So what would life be like in the future for these people, these fictional characters in Peril? Seeing that they're guided by or misguided by this melded religion called phantomism. They look at the internet as a god, deity, if you will. The Seer is essentially the result of an accident. And I'll give you some backstory on how the Seer came to be. We had developed the technology to download our consciousness into the internet to access information quicker, for video gaming purposes, for virtual reality, escapism, sort of like the holodecks you see on Star Trek. One day, a group of video gamers decided to hook themselves up to the internet and hack the system. And something went terribly wrong, and the system went down, killing these video gamers and a scientist while they were still connected to it. So their souls were sort of turned into this lost data. When the system was rebooted, it was discovered that a byproduct of the hack was that the internet was sentient. It had become self-aware, being comprised of these lost souls, or a collective consciousness, if you will. In Peril, mankind uses the internet to answer questions from the benign to the unknowable. They also rely on the Seer to resolve their current dilemma, which is the impending destruction of Earth and the extinction of mankind. However, the Seer, being this dark character, has its own agenda, which involves Vanessa Baines' unborn child and the distant planet MV5L6. And I'll refrain from going into too much detail about that because it'll give away too much of the story. You'll just have to get the book and see the film when it's made. Suffice it to say, the Seer is a driving force in Peril. During the end of the 21st century, wars over power, territory, and religion have led to the rise and fall of many nations. Technology companies capitalized on the turmoil and gained political power, stabilizing peace for a time. But eventually, the corporate giants began fighting. Those wars became known as the Great Corporation Wars. Though power and territory was the cause for all the wars, religious differences always seemed to be the precipitating factor. Androids, which were created to service humanity and maintain law and order, eventually became a proponent in facilitating the wars. Feeling subjugated by humanity, the androids eventually rebelled, sparking the human-android wars. To unify peace, the Seer, who is connected to every human through subconscious downloads, melded the different religions. The seer also programmed the androids to leave Earth and settle a nearby colony to maintain peace. The seer, through a neural brainwashing, chose several leaders of many different faiths and converted them to Phantomism. These converts are called the Holy Mystagogues. The Holy Mystagogues are like the religious leaders of the past. They encourage enlightenment. However, they are controlled by the seer, and their faith is very ritualistic. For example, they encourage the practice of disembodiment with the help of the seer to reach a plane of higher existence. They also encourage having cybernetic implants melded with the body as a form of a ritual. They worship technology and they worship the seer. They look to the stars in the universe as having the keys to ultimate knowledge. For them, the pursuit of ultimate knowledge is to be like the divine, the seer. A favorite quote for them is, "Go with infinite knowledge," or "seek infinite knowledge." And translated loosely, it basically means what it implies. They want to know the unknowable. Every question that has ever been asked throughout humanity's time on Earth, that's what they seek to know. And given their current dilemma, the ultimate destruction of Earth through ecological demise, that kind of makes sense because they depend heavily on technology. So their quest for ultimate knowledge will sort of help them avoid their destruction. And as I pointed out in the book, they have very strange rituals and customs. And the Phantomist faith is basically derived from the seer. And it's comprised of all the data and information that the seer has gained over the years through its existence. So it's tainted. The religion itself is tainted. Because ultimately, the seer has its own wants and desires and agenda for humanity and their rivals, the androids. And that's it for this episode of Peril Characters, A Closer Look Part 2. And I hope you'll join me for Part 3, the last chapter in our character series. In Part 3, we'll take a closer look at the mist creatures of MV5L6, their creators, the Shingelatori, and our ancient ancestors. For now, as always, go with infinite knowledge.